A good clinician does not necessarily make a good clinic director or a good partner, right? They might think they might think they're going to be good at it. They might try it and they might realize they hate it, right? Because
Yeah.
everything, the grass is always greener on the other side. Nobody can appreciate how
Yeah.
difficult, challenging it can be to be.
All right, we are live. Welcome to the Clinic Bot Show. I am Rick Lau, and I'm your host today. And I grew and exited 127 locations. So I'm on a journey to learn from the top healthcare entrepreneurs in the world on how to get smarter in business and in life. And if this sounds like you, welcome to the show. And today we got a special guest who has a super incredible, awesome story. Her name is Michelle. She's the owner of a multi-million-dollar practice in Toronto, PhysioPlus, and a team of 35 roughly. Michelle, is that like you got physio, you got surgeons, you got doctors, you got chiros, you got massage, and you're also one of our business coaches within Clinic Accelerator. So did I describe that right, Michelle?
You did pretty close. Yeah. I don't know
Okay.
that we have 35 people. I'd have to count, but we're probably pretty close to, I don't know, 30.
I went on your website. I was like, oh my gosh, your team totally expanded.
Oh, okay. So maybe
right?
we do. I've lost count. Lost count.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so you do have a super interesting story, and that's why I want you to get on the show. And so I know a few years ago, like I think it was during COVID, like your business was struggling, and you even had to shut down a clinic, right? And now like you're just on top of the world, so and you're just crushing it. And so I just want to maybe talk about this story a bit more, maybe like what happened, maybe you could share a bit of your experience and your journey on that.
Yeah, happy to. So yes, we did. We had originally a clinic at in one just outside of the downtown core of Toronto. We opened up a second clinic downtown, but we had to shut that clinic down when COVID hit. It was a relatively new clinic. It had only been there for a couple of years. And so it really wasn't established. And when COVID hit and the downtown core just evacuated, we realized pretty early on that it was going to be a really long time before the downtown core recovered. And so we decided to just shut that clinic down. And we ended up subleasing the space. So we were very lucky. But it was a very stressful time, and it was stressful for a few reasons, not just having to shut the clinic down, but, COVID, a business partner, we weren't necessarily, aligned in terms of what we wanted out of the business. And so that created a lot of frustration on both sides, I'm sure. And so we did shut down the clinic, and, long story short, we found a subleaser, and then we were able to buy our way out of that lease, and we're completely free of that space now. And that really sort of allowed me to just focus my attention on the original location. And I think that's, in part, there's a lot of things that have kind of happened around that, but being able to just focus on one location and make that location grow and put all my time and energy into that has really made a big difference over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think your business like totally took off, right? Like what type of growth did you think you experienced since, in the last couple of years, right?
In the last couple of years, I would say probably, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but it's probably pretty close to 40% over the last couple of years.
Wow, that's insane. And I think, and this is interesting, is that like we were talking about this a little earlier, is that like a lot of like clinic owners who own one clinic, and I see this a lot where like they get to a point where they feel a bit confident, and like they're usually like breaking even or making a bit of money. And then they feel like the next natural step is to open up a second location,
Yeah.
And so I just want to hear from your perspective, is that like, what was your lessons learned from having multiple locations versus like, just like, just focus on one and just doing really well with it versus trying to, like spread yourself across 2 clinics. Or I know some people that want to own 5 or 10 clinics. And when I hear that, I'm like, dude, you want to be in like an Uber driver, like driving to 10 different locations, 10 different like meetings, dropping off supplies.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare for sure. I mean, I think it can be done, but I think the way I did it was just not the right way. I think the key is really you need a partner in that second location that is really, that you're in alignment with and that you work together with, and you're, on board with the same systems and structures that you can implement into the clinic to make it successful. And that's where, for me, it fell apart. I had a business partner, so my thinking was, okay, great. One of us will run one clinic, the other will run the other clinic, divide and conquer kind of thing, right? And that's, it's just not what ended up happening for different reasons. But I think, if you can have that dedicated partner and with a vested interest in the business at the other location, it does make a big difference, because the alternative is like what you were saying. It's, me running around to all the different locations trying to make it all work. And you just can't. There's just too much to do. You cannot do it on your own. You need someone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also like your focus too, right?
For sure. For sure. Having the one clinic, and then, being able to like sort of have a bit of a plan and a strategy, right? Like I was able to, and it was a lot of the clinic accelerator for sure has helped me. Like I've done coaching with Karen for the last couple of years, and she really helped me sort of organize my thoughts and kind of pick off pieces one bit at a time. But you really do need to have, a good foundation laid, and sort of a bit of a plan to kind of take you through that bit by bit. And then it allows you to kind of put all of your focus into one place, and you're not pulled in a million different directions. You can focus, you get stuff done, and you see the results, which is nice.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you had a business partner breakdown, and I'm curious, like when you think about, if you were to have a business partner again, what would you say are like the must-haves? Like what type of alignment would you have to have with your business partner, right? And the reason I bring this up is I see a lot of people who usually start up a clinic. They usually partner with someone like they know, like maybe it's like another therapist they used to work with, right? And to me, like when you partner with someone, it's like a marriage, so it could get very expensive, like in a divorce, and it's also very stressful, like having like a divorce. And so I just want to hear from you, Michelle, because you've gone through having a business partner. Now you don't have one, you had a breakdown, like, so what are like must-haves, or maybe even like takeaways or lessons learned from people who are considering having a business partner?
So I think one of the things that helps a partnership is if you can find a partner that has different geniuses or different strengths than you do, it helps make you a well-rounded team, right? So I think that's one thing to kind of think about. But the other thing, and I didn't do this because I wasn't sort of involved in Clinic Accelerator back then, but just sort of the idea of bringing somebody and not just going from being a clinician to a partner, but being a clinician to maybe, having a smaller leadership role within the clinic that allows you as a clinic owner to be able to work with that individual on that leadership basis, so that you can get a sense of, are they able to do what you need them to do? Do you work well together? Are they able to follow through on, what needs to be done? Those kinds of things I think that's crucial. And if I was to go back and do it again, I would definitely do that. And then the other thing that I would consider is when you bring somebody on, think about the role that they're going to play. And so, I brought my partner on as a 50-50 partner, thinking that it would be really helpful because she brought a lot of really, really great things. And together, we would sort of be equally vested, and we'd get in there and work really hard, and we'd both be, working equally. So I would think about it in terms of, what role is that person going to fit? And maybe it's a smaller role within the clinic. Maybe you just want them to run the marketing or run the mentorship, or I don't know, run, the administrative side of the front desk, the operations. And if it's that kind of role, it doesn't necessarily need to be 50-50. It can be a smaller, like a junior partner type of role that allows them to like bite off a smaller chunk, so that it's easier for them to kind of get up to speed and feel comfortable and confident in that role.
Yeah. So Michelle, like, let's talk about you. So what would you say is your zone of genius?
Okay. So
Because you like you're saying, like, you want to match up like a partner with someone to have skill sets that doesn't match your zone of genius. So let's in your case, like, what is your zone of genius, right?
So I'll tell you what my zone isn't. It's not, I hate getting into like the nitty gritty and the like the day-to-day details. That
The
drives
operations?
me nuts. Yeah, hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it.
So you're the
Drain.
visionary. You're the visionary, the strategy, right? You know, right?
Yeah, I love to think about, come up with new ideas,
Okay.
think about new programs, new services, things that we can do to help grow the business in different areas.
Marketing, business dev, right?
Yeah,
Strategy.
yeah. I love
Okay.
that. Love that. And I love looking at something and thinking, okay, okay, this is good, but how can we make it better?
Okay. Okay. Wow. And so then what would be an ideal business partner for you, right? I guess it would be dealing with all the operations, like the hiring, like is it the mentorship of the clinicians to so that they could like, implement the treatment plan and all that other stuff, right? Is that kind of what I'm
For
hearing, Michelle?
sure. That would
Okay.
definitely complement me. But I do think it's important for any business owner to clinic owner to have a little bit of that sort of, vision and invention, like being able to
Yeah.
look at things. And even if it's within only a small area of the clinic to say,
Yeah.
oh gosh, like, this is great. This is good. But you know what? We should do this and it'll make it even better. So be able to kind of
Yeah.
have that vision, even if
Yeah.
it's within only a small part of the clinic, I do think that's important for any clinic owner.
Yes, 100%. And I think that it almost sounds like, there needs to be a good alignment with like the vision of the business too. Cause I see a lot of business partners like kind of fall apart when
Yeah.
like they want to go different ways, like the vision of the business is very different, right?
Yep.
So
For sure. You have to be on the same page. You have to want the same thing out of the business. You want to be able to, you want to
yeah,
have a vision with where you want to take it.
yeah,
And also like being clear on what are you able to put into the business, right? Because different people are at different stages of life. And
yeah.
some partners may have lots of time to devote to this and some may not because they have a lot of other things going on. So having that kind of conversation before you get into a partnership is a great thing too.
Yeah, and something you brought up that was really awesome earlier was that like you should test people before you want to decide you want to sleep with them. In this case, like them be your business partner, right? And so I love this idea where like, hey, if you actually want to have like a business partner for maybe your second or third location, I would actually test this person out to do a project to see how they would work, pay them to do it, right? And if they do well within that project, maybe the next part of their call it like their roadmap, career roadmap is like they could be an assistant clinic director or maybe a clinic director to actually see, hey, can they actually influence the clinicians? Can they actually influence the front desk for changes to do all those like operational stuff that maybe like the visionary in this case, Michelle, that you don't want to do. If they actually could do all that and make significant changes with like the P&L, like 100%, I would consider them to actually maybe be a business partner, and then
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And then, and it's hard to sort of pigeonhole and be specific, but you really you need to have somebody that has that sort of ability to look at the bigger picture and have that vision, but they need
yeah,
to be able to sort of, get their hands dirty and get in there and get the job done. And you don't necessarily know that. A good clinician does not necessarily make a good clinic director or a good partner, right? They might think they might think they're going to be good at it. They might try it and they might realize they hate it, right? Because
yeah,
everything, the grass is always greener on the other side. Nobody can appreciate how
yeah.
difficult, challenging it can be to be a clinic owner. Um, but yeah, I think it's the only way you can really get a sense of whether it's going to be a good fit on both sides, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it a good fit for both people?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And so, if you had to do it all over again, like, actually, let me back up. So I wanted, like, I want you to reflect like your journey. Like, you've been a clinic owner for how many years, Michelle?
Oh my goodness, 15 years in this location, I
Okay,
think. Yeah.
so the last 15 years, right? So, like, if I was to like ask you, like, if you do it all over again, when you're at that startup stage, right? Where you just started off like, like you're like, yep, I finished school a couple of years and I want to open up a clinic, right? And like, what knowing what you know now, like, what would you do differently?
So, I mean, one thing I would say, I didn't do this. I opened my clinic after I'd already been working for, geez, I can't remember, it might have been 7 years. It was a
Okay.
few years. So one thing I would say is don't open a clinic until you've had at least 4 or 5 years under your belt.
Of clinical experience, right?
Yeah,
Or is
clinical
it
experience.
okay?
Yeah. Get that
Okay.
experience first, because you can't then
Why?
bump into, well, because when you open up a business, you're the clinic owner and you have to know all the administrative stuff, but you also still have to play the clinical side, right?
Yeah.
You can't, you still
Are
have
you
to,
doing everything? You're the solopreneur, right? You're
yeah,
treating
yeah.
and yeah.
So, if you have people working with you, they're going to expect mentorship. Well, how can you mentor someone if you're a new grad?
Okay.
You not as a new grad, you're often struggling in those first, 1 or 2 years to just learn how to be a clinician. So if
Okay.
you have to, on top of that, add the stress of learning how to run a business, I think
Okay.
you're going to kill yourself. So I think don't do it too early on.
Well, the other good thing too, if you work for like you said, 4 or 5 years, you're gonna actually build a clientele of people that will follow you, right? So that if you just do decide to open up a clinic, a good chunk of your caseload and other people that you've seen over the past 4 or 5 years should over time search for your name in that
Yeah.
area. And if you open up a clinic in the area, like your word of mouth should would you agree, Michelle?
Oh, 100% for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So that's another reason, right? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. And then the other thing I would say is if I was to go back and do it again, um, there are a lot of systems and processes, like structure to the clinic that I have now that I
Yeah.
didn't have even 5 years ago. And so
Yeah.
if I was to go back and do it, to me, like those systems and processes that I've put in place in the last 3 years.
What's essential? Actually, before we talk about that, we should talk about the mindset that most people are when they start up, because the thing they worry about is I can't, I don't have a caseload, right? So what would you do from a marketing side, because you're a great marketer, by the way. Like when I look at everything that you do for marketing, I know you've done all of your programs, and we'll talk a little more later, but what would you do as a startup, a solopreneur, in terms of what type of marketing would you prioritize to get yourself busy, to the point where you start thinking about operations and some of the other stuff, because that's not, yeah.
Yeah. How do you get the ball rolling kind of thing?
Yeah.
I think community outreach and physician outreach is key. It's a lot of hard work, but it's super important, right? Like building those relationships in your community with other business owners, with people that you might be able to, establish some kind of collaboration with. Will
What do you
help
mean by
you.
that? You're talking about content collaboration or doing workshops with them,
Yeah, could be workshops, could be you offer some kind of mutual discount on clients, or like an added, value add thing for each of your clients.
Or
So
treatment
that,
swaps, right? Or service swaps,
yeah,
right?
could even be, I'll promote you in my clinic and you promote me in your gym or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
You go in and do, workshops for their staff, for their trainers, or you collaborate on a workshop to the public. So those kinds of things will help you just get your name out in the community. Physician outreach is a great one. I found it's hard, period. It's a little bit easier for physio because doctors are more open to physio in general. So it's harder for massage therapists and chiropractors to go to doctors. Not all doctors will refer to chiro or massage. But it is an important piece. It's hard, but I still recommend you do it, because
Would
once
you do that as a startup, or you do it later? Is that the low hanging fruit? It's just that doctors, it takes so long to win their relationship with one. And if they're going to refer to you, that means that they like you more than the other physio that they refer to, right?
Yeah. It is hard. It is a slow burn.
Yeah.
But
So
not
you would still start that right away,
I
as
would.
a startup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely
So
would.
community, physician outreach, what else?
So if there's the budget, or I would try to make the budget, because I'm a little shocked at or surprised at how good this has been, is Google Ads.
Okay.
I think that has helped bring us new assessments. So I'd say try to, earmark a little bit of your budget for Google Ads and find someone that can help you design those ads so they're targeted to the right people.
Okay. And how much emphasis would you put on SEO? Because SEO is a lot of work. It's not really free because you got to spend money on it. Is that something you do later? Or would you start now, as a startup when you only have so much dollars in front of you, right?
Yeah, I probably
It's a long
that's a
game,
tough
right?
one. That is a tough one. Yeah, because like if you don't start it, it's a good, few months
Yes.
before whatever you do takes
Yes.
effect.
Yes.
So I think
Let me ask you a question
it's a tough
different. Would
one.
you start it now or would you start it when you start breaking even as a business?
Oh, I think I would start it now. I wouldn't wait till you break
So you
even.
would take the loss now,
Yeah,
right? You
I
know?
would for sure
Okay.
because I've seen
Wow.
how
See,
well that
you
stuff
are
works.
entrepreneurial. I think most of the solopreneurs like they just want to like make how much they made like when they were a therapist, right?
Oh
That's kind of
God,
the
no.
initial
Yeah,
mindset.
you're gonna. It's not gonna happen in the first year. Maybe a little longer if you're not. If you're lucky the first year.
Okay, so you would start SEO. That's
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, cool,
yeah, I would
cool.
because I've seen. I didn't put a lot of time into that until I
Okay,
don't know 3 years ago ish,
okay,
4 years ago maybe.
okay.
And I've seen how much of a difference it has made.
Yes.
So I would definitely try to do some of it for sure, for
And
sure.
Michelle, you see this? I pulled up your. I was looking at your SEO, right? Like through SEMrush. I don't know what you did, but like your traffic is insane. Like, like in the since like Q4, like it
Yeah,
just
so
skyrocketed,
that's great.
like to once again, like this, like it says like, 8, 9,000 like unique sessions a month, right? And you know what's interesting, Michelle, is that like, remember like back like maybe 2 years ago, you were in my 30-day challenge where we're pumping up blogs, right?
Yeah,
When
I
I
do.
look at here, it's like one of your top performing pages that get the most backlinks.
I
Remember like the
know.
knee brace one
I
and the tennis
know.
elbow one? Look at the number of backlinks you have. Like these two backlinks we did on the 30-day challenge for our blogs, like generated like 500, 600, like it represents 30% of your backlinks, which is
Yeah,
insane.
I know. It's so funny. I don't know why that one is so much better than the other ones, but it is for some reason.
It's because you did the challenge and you follow the template and you actually you actually put the effort doing it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was good.
So
It was good.
but yeah, that is yeah, good job there. Like that was insane. Okay, let's talk about operations. So
Sure.
you got patients coming in the door. Actually, before we talk about that, one thing I want to share was that like I spoke with a soulpreneur who was in our community I think a month ago, and he literally quit his practice like in he quit, he started a clinic from scratch as a soulpreneur in the busiest intersection in Vancouver, right? And within 2 months, he was getting 7 assessments a week, right? And I asked him, I was like, what did you do? He just did 3 things. One was a community outreach. He was focusing massage therapists, and then the massage therapist was referring to it. It was amazing, right? The second thing he did was that he started attacking the Facebook groups, right? So all the Facebook neighborhood groups, and he's into running and basketball. So he also focused on the Facebook groups in that local area for basketball and for that, like, whatever, like the other activity, like the running group. And he just went in there and just started adding value and just helping people. And then like, once he figured out like someone's pain point, he would actually create a blog article around this and just driving it back to his like website. And it was like, that's all he did to actually just get that 5 to 7 assessments a week, right?
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. And you do bring up a good point. The Facebook groups are amazing.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to be careful of, like it works well for him because he's a member and he's a runner. And so
Yeah.
he gets in there and contributes, right?
Yes.
So for us as a bigger clinic, I have a marketing coordinator that does what she can on Facebook groups, but we don't
Yeah.
have as great a success with it because it's not me in there, giving
Yeah.
advice and doing this and doing that. It's just the marketing coordinator kind of going in and posting what she can when she can. But you have to
Yeah.
be careful that you're not trying to sell in these groups. So if you're
Yes, you can't
on your
promote. You
own,
have to go in there to actually do. You know what? You bring up a good point because like I had a chat with Nicole. She's like a pelvic floor coach. Like she's a pretty big coach in the US. And she's a big proponent of actually paying therapists to actually go and do call it community like outreach within these Facebook groups on activities they like, right?
oh, that's a
So that's
great.
something you may want to consider is that like if one of your therapists is really into like pickleball or this other one is really into pelvic floor, maybe you could allocate that budget where, hey, once a week, I just want to go in there and just add value. and find out what type of content we should create on our blog, based on like their pain points. And then if you're going to offer anything, you're going to offer like, once again, drive it back to like your blog, or gets to a point where you develop relationships where like people start DMing you, right?
Yeah, no, that is awesome. It's such a good source of referrals. That's so great. What a great idea.
Yeah. So, okay. Operations. Okay. So what would you do from an operational side? You're still at that startup, right? Once again, what would you do given the fact that it's just you and you're overwhelmed and you're still treating patients as well, right?
So I'm
and
running
you're just barely paying for like rent, like actually, no, you're probably paying more than rent now,
So it's me running the clinic, seeing patients.
Running a clinic, you're doing community, you're doing physician out. What's that?
Do I have somebody at the front desk?
No.
Oh God, no. Like it's really me by myself.
It's just you by yourself, right?
Oh, geez. That's a tough one. No other clinicians, just me.
It's just you. Okay. Yeah. This was 15 years ago when you started. You probably forget.
I do. I honestly do. It's like so long ago and I'm old now. So
it's just you. Not so good. It's just you and you're treating. But you have ambitions to actually get to where you're at right now, 15 years later. But you want to do it maybe in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the shortcut now, right? Like what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? Or
like what operational, like what would you do differently? So so we talked about marketing, what you would prioritize on. What would you do from a systems or operations standpoint, or you would wait?
Sorry, say the last thing again. I didn't hear.
What would you prioritize from a systems or operations standpoint? Or would you wait? Because you're just barely getting by.
Wait until we start to break even, like as opposed to right away.
Or you wait until you do your first hire.
Yeah. Get a bit of a caseload of your own going. Be solid yourself with a good caseload. And maybe even bring a second clinician in under you that can help you with some of the overflow. Or a complementary clinician. Like if you're a physio, bring in a massage therapist. Because then you can get some of that.
So there you go. So you would actually bring in RMT, right?
Yeah, or any other complementary. Depends on who you are as a clinician, but physio and RMT go together really, really well.
Okay.
But at the very least, I would say.
So would that be your first hire, or you would hire front desk first?
If you can hire part-time front desk, that would be ideal because it's a huge expense. So the longer you can wait to hire front desk, the better. But there comes a point where you can't do, like, you're too overloaded. So I would say do it as long as you can, but maybe look at some other different strategies, like a virtual receptionist. There are companies out there that do that, and that can be a really good sort of stepping stone to going from you by yourself to having a full-time admin person.
Yeah. You wouldn't take the bullet and just hire a full-time front desk?
Initially, no, I don't think I would. I would wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Pay yourself first, right? Type of deal versus take a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, because that adds up so quickly and it takes so long.
It's expensive too, right?
It's expensive, and it takes a while for some of your, marketing initiatives to kind of take hold. So I might wait.
So you would rather reinvest the money in the marketing, get it full, like let's get the RMT full, let's get maybe that second clinician part-time full, maybe hire a virtual reception in the meantime, which is a fraction of the cost. And then once like the numbers make sense, hire that front desk. That would be your sequence of hire.
Right? I think so. And I don't know that I would have, I don't think I would go as far as having 2 full-time clinicians before I get an admin. Once you start bringing clinicians on, they will expect a, front desk help. Yeah. So you have to have some kind of solution there for them if you don't have that person sitting there.
Okay. And you'll start with a part-time. But here's the thing, you start with the part-time is that you spend so much time training them and they part-time with you and they're part-time with another job. Like you lost all that training in 6 months now, right?
You're right.
Would you just go all in with hiring someone full-time, or you would still stick with the part-time?
I think I might wait. Actually, now that you say that, I think I'd probably wait until I can hire full-time.
Okay.
I do without until I can hire full-time.
So if you go, it's either go all in or go like all in or
Yeah,
all out. Like
I
don't do
think
this
so.
half, because I agree
No.
with you, because I think the biggest mistake that people will make is when you hire a part-timer, you're like, you're gonna likely lose this person for like another job, because they're gonna take another
Yeah.
job elsewhere. And so you
Yeah.
spend all this time training them, doing it, like, you know, like you're like, it's just like, yeah, it
Yeah,
just doesn't
I
make sense.
agree.
Yeah.
I take it all back. I agree.
Okay. Isn't it kind of interesting when you kind of like start from the very beginning again to like, you know, to where you're at right now? Like, it's, oh
Yeah.
wow, because maybe like you could have hit these type of like numbers like in 5 years versus like
Yeah.
where you're at like 10, 15, right? So,
Well, yeah, for sure. And I mean, my situation was even slightly different because I wasn't in this big space when
yeah.
initially. I initially had a 3-room clinic with no receptionist. And it was really, really low rent because it was located inside a yoga studio. And so that allowed me to build a bit of a caseload for 4 clinicians before
Okay.
we moved into this big space.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let's just say you got you got an RMT, you got a PT, and let's just say you got a front desk. What is the operational stuff you would implement as essential?
Um,
Weekly scoreboard.
Weekly scoreboard for
Okay.
sure.
What else?
Treatment plans for sure.
Yes.
A fall off process and wellness check-in process, because that's the low hanging fruit, right? Like you gotta, when that patient walks in the door, you have to make sure that they are committed to their plan of care. And
Yeah.
if they fall off their plan of care, there needs to be a system in place to get them back on track.
Okay. Fall off slash reactivation, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
A regular meeting rhythm. So this is assuming you now have a front desk person.
Okay.
So clear job description with clear expectations and a very regular meeting rhythm with your front desk person, so that
What's regular? Like every
once a
day,
week.
like every 5 minutes, you know, every
Once a week.
once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once again, I think this is important where you do block and meet with your leadership team like once a week, and where you could go deep, not like, hey, like, you know, like passing by and like, can you do this? Can you do that? Like blah, blah, blah. Cause
Yeah.
that's not effective, right? You know, so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's at the startup stage. Let's just say, you know, like everything's going well and you're finally breaking even. You hit your first like, you know, $400,000. Okay. You're at $400,000. You know, it might take you 3 years, right? To actually 2, 3 years to hit here, and you're breaking even, right? What would your next hire be, right?
In terms of administrative, you're talking, or clinical?
Yes, anything that's not clinical. Obviously, like you would hire clinical, like based on like how many assessments you have and your PVA, right? But like,
Okay.
what would your next hire be, right?
So I would probably hire another front desk person that can do a bit of a hybrid job where
Okay,
they
full time or part time?
full time,
Okay. Okay.
where they can do a bit of a hybrid, right? They can help at the front desk because now there's more
Okay.
patient volume. They need more
Yeah.
help. Maybe the hours are a bit more extended because we've got more clinicians working more hours. So
Okay.
part-time, they will help at the front desk.
Yeah.
Part-time, they can help with either some of the operations or maybe some of the marketing.
Okay. Okay. I love that you said that. So you would actually have a front desk where they're kind of like a hybrid role where they are backing up the front desk, but they're also kind of that marketing coordinator role.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I
Okay.
did that for not a long time, but for a while, I had someone who played that kind of dual role.
Okay. Yeah. And so if you had, okay, that's it. And then at this stage, what marketing would you prioritize it? Like, what would you do next?
I would start tapping into the existing patients, because now you've been established for a bit, you've got 3 or 4 clinicians, there's lots of people coming in and out of the clinic. I would look at newsletters and emails to patients, check-in emails, basically just a system of regularly reaching out to your existing and past patients so that you
Okay.
keep that relationship, so that when they have a problem, they'll come back to you, or their family member has a problem, they're
Okay.
going to remember you and come
Okay.
back.
Okay. What about social media? Is
So,
this when you do social media or you do it at the startup stage? Because,
so I'll tell you, I mean, this is my experience with social media. I don't know if other people can, speak differently, but for us, social media is really, we don't get a lot of patients from social media.
yeah.
It's more of a recruiting tool. So
Okay.
it's good to have it out there for people who are thinking about coming to work with you. It shows your culture, it shows the clinic, it shows the team. So yeah, it's important for recruiting, but it's not important for getting more patients in the clinic. As
I
far as
100%, I 100% agree with you, right?
yeah,
Is that like social media in the long game is kind of like SEO. It's going to take time for you to build, like, people will follow you and they trust you. And then maybe one day they'll fall. One day they might like, click to call.
yeah, yeah.
It's a long funnel, all right?
It is a
So,
long funnel for
yeah.
sure, for sure, for sure.
So at this stage, this is like, what would you get your marketing coordinator to do 20, like 15, 20 hours a week? So you would get them to do the email newsletters and you get them to do social media. Cause at this stage now, like you're going to start recruiting like really good talent now, right?
Yeah, so I don't know that I would do, and I didn't for sure. And going back, I'm not sure I would do it differently, but we didn't really spend much time on social media with a part-time marketing coordinator. It was more the emails, newsletters, posters in the clinic, like use the real estate you have in your clinic,
Okay.
promote what you can in the clinic. So I would have her do those things before social media.
Okay. And any more, would you get them involved with doing more of your physician and community marketing as well? That's what you would
Yep.
double down?
Yeah,
Okay.
if they have the bandwidth, absolutely. Workshops are great. So, if you can run workshops, and that's a great thing you can do at any point in time, at the
Yeah.
beginning of the business, middle, like later as it grows, because it's a great way to expose yourself in the community, get people to know you and see you.
Mm.
You establish yourself as an authority, and
Yeah.
you will get assessments from it. So that's
Yeah.
another thing that I'd probably add in earlier if I was to
Okay.
go back. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then you talked about email marketing, right? Like, so what specific types of email marketing would you send out at that stage? Like you got the monthly newsletters, you got the check-ins. I assume these are like reactivations. Is that what they
Yeah,
are?
like a reactivation email, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, a
Okay.
monthly newsletter that's a little bit more, with pictures and sort of what you think of when you think of a typical newsletter.
Yeah.
Reactivation emails that might go out, 6 months after they graduated to just check in to see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those people will say, "Oh, my back is acting up again. I need to come back in," and so you do get
Yeah.
assessment from it.
Wow.
And
And who
then
sends that? Is it your front desk sending it, marketing coordinator, or is it the
it,
clinician sending it?
yeah, it's the marketing coordinator. The clinicians, as much as we try to get the clinicians to do
Yeah.
it, and we have a whole structure and system with support from a administrative person, but they just never
Yeah.
have time.
Yeah.
So it's the marketing person.
Okay. Interesting. Michelle, I'm a marketing first person, like to me, like marketing and sales cures all. So when I think about this, I actually would hire that marketing coordinator in the very beginning and get them to like do this backup role. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all about how risk averse you are, right? Like if you want
Yes.
to
Yes.
know, and you have to have confidence in what you're doing. So, if I think back to before I started doing all of this stuff, before I took your challenges and did all of this accelerator stuff, right? I did not have the confidence to be able to
Yeah.
know what to do and to know
Yeah.
that if I did this, I would have this outcome.
Well,
So
here's the thing is that as a therapist, you could probably make like, I don't know, like $100 an hour, right? And I see all these people like when all these solopreneurs who start off, or even these people break even, they're spending like 10 hours a week doing social media, which is like a $25 job. You might as well just spend that
yeah,
time treating and pay someone at 25 bucks,
for
right?
sure, for sure.
And
And
in between, get them to answer the phone calls that which there isn't a lot of, right? You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
And then do all the like drive the referral so that like it makes it super easy for you to just hire the RMT and like you're like if the demand is there, it's very easy for you to like fulfill the demand with the supply, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, if you're willing to kind of take that risk and jump in and do it, I think that's a great investment to
Yeah.
get it going quickly. We have a virtual marketing coordinator
Okay.
who doesn't even live in Canada. And
Okay.
so she works with us full time. And that has
Okay.
been a huge money saver for us because
Did you find that virtual receptionist for you? Or the
yeah,
virtual? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And it's still the
Amazing.
same one that we've had for, gosh, I think she's been with us for 3 years now, and she's unbelievable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Shada has like 6 marketing coordinators like working with
Oh,
her right
wow.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not quite at the stage where my marketing coordinator needs an assistant, but
Cool. Operationally, is there anything you would implement now? Like now that like you're at break even, you're doing that $500,000 mark, you know, is there anything operationally you would add? You know, like I
other
think,
than what we've just said, like
yeah,
the fall offs
yeah,
and the wellness.
yeah.
Oh geez. Someone in the clinic, and it could be again one of these hybrid roles. One of the things that's been really successful for us is having one of the admin people provide support to the clinicians from a caseload management perspective. So scanning the schedule, our patients booked optimally, or
Yeah.
are patients booked in a way where there's a 20-minute useless gap in between, and so we lose an assessment. We could have, or
Schedule optimization, right?
yeah, schedule optimization. So someone that can sort of do that, but also support the clinicians with their fall off. So fall
Okay.
off clinicians are doing their own fall offs, but if they run out of time, have someone dedicated to getting that done. Because if the
Who
clinicians
does it?
don't,
Like, so would this be the marketing coordinator or the front desk?
it could, I mean, it's a small clinic, so you wear many hats, right? It could
Okay.
be, it could
Same
be either
person.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
it could be either
So
one.
this is like your backup plan if the clinician doesn't do, because you want the clinician to do because it's their caseload. But if they're not one to do it, then your backup plan should do it, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What about a clinical lead?
Yes, definitely.
Would you start now, or like, you know, like you want to get that rhythm going where you're doing like clinical leads, you're doing like case reviews, you know, like you're doing like clinical rounds and it's all tied back into
Yeah. How many clinicians do I have now? Like 3 or 4?
yeah, 4, yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
doing
for
half a
sure.
million. Each person bills like, you know, 100, 150, right?
Okay. So yeah, if we're that big, then for sure you would
Yeah.
definitely, because mentorship is super important to people these days, right? So I think to be competitive, you have to have some kind of mentorship. And as a clinic
Okay.
owner, if you really love to do it and you want to keep doing it, well, that's great. But if you're wearing too many hats and you're not doing a good job of the many
Mm.
hats you're wearing, then having a clinical lead, someone that you've worked with that likes, teaching, that has that passion for teaching, that wants to
Yeah.
take on that role. And it could be, as small as a couple hours a week where they're
Yeah.
there to run rounds,
Yeah.
maybe even do some one-on-ones with the junior clinicians,
Okay.
and just be there to answer questions for them.
Okay. Yeah, which is important because if you want your PVAs to go up, which means you got to do caseload reviews, which you have to like, you need someone to do it unless like the owner does it, right? So
100%. The younger clinicians need that support, and they
yeah.
want it.
Okay. Schedule optimizations, clinical leads, clinical rounds, you know, right? Anything else?
Staff meetings, I mean, that's super
Okay.
important. Some kind of regular time for the entire staff, clinicians and admin, to get together. Um, and
That once a month, every 2 weeks,
yeah,
or
once a month is usually
okay.
pretty good. I would
Okay.
start doing that at that point. What else do we do? I think that's, so we providing some kind of like caseload management workshop as part of the mentorship is a great thing too. So you're teaching them clinical skills, but you're teaching caseload management skills as well. And then
Yeah.
bringing the admin into that discussion is a great thing, because it's a team, right? You can't be alone and work alone as a clinician and not rely on your admin team. So I think teaching the admin the importance of working with the clinicians, and the clinicians the importance of working with the admin, is
Yeah.
super important at that stage.
I love it. So Michelle, when you were doing your first $500,000, right? Which is kind of like a break-even clinic, right? You know, like it's breaking even, you know, or maybe, yeah, just break even or making a little bit of money, right? When you were doing it, how many hours a week were you still treating? Were you still treating like
Oh my God.
like
I was
80%, like 30 hours a week?
still, yeah, like probably 35 hours a week still.
Okay. So if you'd redo it again at 500,000, what would you do? Would you change that or no?
Yeah, no, I would for sure. I would hire a clinical lead, because
Okay.
I could have offloaded that. It's something I don't like to do. I could have given it to somebody who was way better than me, and it would have
Okay.
happened, because it never really happened as regularly as it was supposed to, because I didn't have the time. So I would definitely hire that clinical lead.
Right.
And get the marketing person, get, those systems in place, I for
Okay.
sure would have done it back then.
Okay. So then how many hours like a week would you be treating patients in this scenario?
If I was to get those people in,
Yeah.
so if it went, let's say it freed up, I don't know, a day a week. So I was treating, maybe 3.5, 4 days, but then
Okay.
working on the business 1 to 1.5 days.
Okay. So maybe like you treat 25 hours a week, 20 hours a week, right?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
25. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think this part is really important because I think a lot of people can't give up treating, right? Because they want to make the money, right? But then like so much people get stuck at that 500,000, that break even point for like 10, 15 years, right? Because they don't have time to actually grow their teams and implement their systems and do everything that we just talked about, right? And so
Yeah,
then it makes you
it's
kind of
hard.
realize like, like when I reflect the people, when I look at their P&Ls and they're stuck for like 10, 15 years, I'm like, like this is not the outcome they wanted, but it was because they weren't able to take that risk, or make that move where they actually made sure they had time to actually work on the business, right? They couldn't let
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of them don't know. Like, I certainly didn't know, right? I was just trying to do what I thought I knew, do my best with what I knew, right? So I think having the confidence to be able to do it, because it's scary, stepping away from treating patients, that's you're going to get money, you're going to earn money. That's how you
Yeah.
pay bills, right?
Yeah.
But if have laid the foundation so that you've got people around you that can help you, and you have a plan and you're confident, confident as you can be, it's still scary. I mean, I even remember when I took that leap of hiring the marketing coordinator, I was like years into my practice, but it was oh gosh, I'm spending all this money, it better work. And it's a leap of faith, but I think if you
But that's why
have,
you got into entrepreneurship, no?
you have to,
It
yeah,
is to take
exactly.
that chance where like if you want to
Yeah.
multiply your impact, you have to take that chance. You can't hold it on, do both,
Yeah.
right?
100%. And the other thing to remember is that it doesn't have to happen overnight, right? You don't have to go from treating 35 patients in a week, 35 hours a week, to 25 in one
Yeah.
day, in like overnight. You can
Yeah.
scale that back. You can just carve out smaller chunks of time to work on the business. And
Yeah.
as it grows, you peel back another 3 or 4 hours, let it grow, and then peel back another 3 or 4 hours.
Okay. Cool. I love this. Like that was great because I think what you're talking about right now is the missing ingredient for someone to actually, like hit their first million, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
I've
not.
seen too many P&Ls like Michelle over the years. Like so much people are stuck at that 500 to 700,000 mark. They can't get over that
Really.
hump. But it's because they're still treating 30, 40 hours a week and then they want
Yeah.
to grow the business.
Yeah, it's just not possible. Like, there's not enough hours in the day. You don't have enough energy. Like, it's just not
And
possible.
then you have to question yourself, like how many, like why did you start the business? Why do you want to become a clinic owner?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because if you're going to treat 40 hours a week, you might as well treat 40 hours a week and not have the stress
for sure.
of managing
For sure.
people and make
Yeah,
no
yeah,
money at $500,000, right?
yeah. And work fewer hours, right? Like, how many clinic owners in that stage are working, like, what, I don't know, 60, 70 hours a week between clinical and administrative
Oh
hours?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough. And how many hours a week do you work right now? Like
Oh,
treating. Yeah.
oh, 3.
Okay. Is it
Yeah.
because you still love it? Because you don't really need to do it, right?
I
Or is
don't
it you
need
can't?
to do it. I do like it. It's kind of like I have a few of my like patients that I've seen for a
Okay.
long time that kind of come and go. Uh, excuse me. Um, so I kind of like doing that. I'm involved with our Pilates instructor, and we do like a
Okay.
supervised exercise program. So it's hard for me to pull away from that.
Okay.
But the other piece of it is that I've still got a ton of patients that can't get in to see me. I'd really
Yeah.
love to be able to have someone to like give those patients to. And
Yeah.
so that's been a bit of a barrier for me. So
Okay.
that's kind of what I'm hanging in for the last little bit.
When are you gonna cut the umbilical cord?
Hopefully next year. I've got a plan in place.
You talked to Kate and Evan. It took them many years to cut it.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that idea. I just need to get somebody to replace me, and then I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and is there any other like experience shares of or you know, like or advice you would give to someone that wants to, you know, like build a like a multi-million-dollar practice? Like what are the kind of the essential ingredients in place, you know?
I would say, like, learn how to get the foundation built before you start building the rest of the house, right? Like some of these
Mm.
key systems and processes that I now have in place, had I put them into place 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I think the trajectory of the clinic and the way the clinic grew would have been way different.
Mm.
So I would say look at that stuff early and get it into place from day one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And because if you don't have that in play and you build out your team and then you got to make all those changes,
Yeah.
your existing team gets very frustrated and it's very likely you'll lose some of like you'll get turned off your staff because you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I used to get the best shifts and now you're saying I have to work in the morning shift or have to
Yeah.
like or to work in the afternoon shift, you know, like we don't have two shifts a day. Like we're just like with a one shift a day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't like change. So the less
Yeah.
change you can introduce, the better for sure.
Cool. One thing I preach a lot is that like I think you know there's four things for clinic owners to be you know if you want to be successful running a clinic, there's four things that you have to do. One is like I think like in this world you have to be really good at marketing, right? You'll be able to generate leads so that they call your clinic, you know, so you could get your clinicians full. The second thing that needs to happen is that your front desk has to be great at sales. Can they convert those like incoming phone calls or those leads into appointments booked? Can they help that clinician schedule those like entire plans of care when they're still in the clinic, right? You know, right?
Oh, so important.
Yeah. And the third is like, you know, it's obviously you can have amazing patient experience, you know. And the fourth thing, especially in this like world of like labor shortages and everyone quite quitting, is that you gotta build on an outstanding staff experience. You know, this is where your leadership and all that stuff kind of like is super important, right?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, people looking to work at a clinic, it's not just about the patients they're going to see and the location. It's about the people that are in the clinic and the culture of the team around them.
Yeah.
When I interview people and I ask them, like, what are you looking for? What's important to you?
Yeah.
That is one of the things at the top of everybody's list. They want to have
Yeah.
a fun environment where everybody's you work together, but maybe you're friends and you go out and do stuff, or the team
Yeah.
has events. It has to be fun. You spend a lot of time here, so they look
Yeah.
for that. Super important.
Yeah. And that's why your social media needs to reflect that. You know, that's what you're saying. Like social media, if it's done right, it's going to be an amazing recruitment tool for all those young people that will look at your social media before they apply for a job or even decide to accept your job, you know, right?
Yeah, for sure they're going to look there. And I do have people that I interview that will say they checked out our Instagram page, and they look there. They want to see who we are online.
Yeah. Okay. Super, super awesome. Hey, I just pulled out your Call Hero dashboard and I just want to say like your team's crushing it, eh? You know, in the last 30 days, you guys are getting like 90% answer rates and
Yeah.
81% like booking rates, you know, and then I think your win backs are almost like $6,000 like a month, you know, like what's your secret sauce with getting your like your front desk staff to get these type of like, you know, yeah, these type of numbers, you know, and conversion rates.
So having Call Hero helped a lot because it allowed us to measure, and is it, how many calls are they actually answering? But the thing that made a big difference was I've actually incentivized them. I have a bonus system in
Whoa.
place. So if
Tell
they
me
reach
more. Like, how does that work? How does it work?
so the way it works is there's a target for the booking rate and a target for the answer rate.
Okay.
Answer rate, I think, is 95% target, and booking rate
Love it.
might be 88%. I can't remember. I have to go back and look.
Okay.
So if they hit their target, if they hit one target, they each get $50 a month bonus for
Okay.
that month. If they hit
Okay.
both targets, they each get $100 bonus for the month.
Okay, and it's paid out monthly, and it's like the entire like front desk team gets it, right? You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you implement that, when you align their comp with like their metrics, did you, at that point, did you start seeing the numbers move?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was,
I looked at your numbers, like I was like, because you're getting like you're getting like, wow, you're getting like 16, yeah, like almost 1,500 calls a month, and so
yeah.
yeah, like you guys are nailing it. I was like, oh, I want to ask Michelle, like, what is it that she's doing?
The other thing that we do that has made a difference is I have one person in charge for all win backs. So
Okay.
call hero win backs,
Okay.
if somebody emailed in an inquiry, she's responsible for those win backs. Somebody who, an assessment that cancels, she's got a whole list of all different types of win back calls that she makes every
Okay.
week.
Oh,
So
wow.
that has made a big difference too. So we have a system of sort of keeping track of all of those names,
Yeah.
and she's regularly reaching out to them.
Wow, that's amazing. And so is there an incentive plan for that one as well, or just part of their day-to-day job?
That is part of their day-to-day job for
Okay.
now. I mean, that role has kind of evolved into one where she's helping build some of our special programs.
Okay.
And she is doing a great job. She's doing a lot of the physician outreach
Okay.
physician outreach.
Okay.
And we've seen some really positive growth in
Okay.
the 3 months that she's been doing that. So I think that her role will probably have to be incentivized
Okay.
because it's very connected to driving revenue and growing assessments.
Leads 100%, right?
Yeah,
So it's like business development, it's yeah,
yeah.
amazing. Wow. That's super, super cool. Um, and so yeah, the last question I had was like like you're crushing it on the marketing side. Like when I look at your marketing and what you're doing, like I'm always like, oh my gosh, like Michelle's like on top of it, right? And I think over the years, you've probably taken every single marketing course out there, like I think you've done the Chad Madden stuff. Like, did you do the Paul Goff stuff as well? I don't know, but like you seem like you've done everyone's like marketing course, right? So I'm super curious, like what would you say is like the top performing marketing campaigns that like is working for you right now that's driving like calls and leads?
Oh, that's a good question. So right now, I think because it's this time of year, right, end of the year, um, wellness calls. So like these reactivation calls,
Mm.
um, and and like emails to patients, just sending emails, checking in emails to patients to see how they're doing, because we've got a ton of people that kind of want to get in before the end of the year to use their benefits. So
Yeah.
granted, that's sort of very time sensitive,
Yeah.
but that's what we're spending a lot of our time on right now.
Yeah. And
Um,
that stuff doesn't cost you money too, right? So
no, it doesn't. It's easy to do. It's fast, right?
yeah. Yeah. Wow. And then it sounds like Google Ads has been working for you as well, right?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why you see that sort of spike in our
Yeah.
numbers there when you're looking at our metrics
Yeah.
is that I increased our Google Ads budget for
Yeah.
physiotherapy, one of our campaigns
Okay.
in October.
Okay.
So that has worked, and we've been spending we've just devoted more budget to it, and it's been good.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then the other thing is content marketing, just spending time on writing blogs and updating our existing pages with like
Yeah.
keyword rich text
Okay.
to try to help us with our
You sound like
SEO.
Shada right now.
I learned from her, so
Yeah. This is good. Yeah. Yeah. And are you still doing workshops, Michelle? Like you were a big like workshop, like, are you still doing workshops, and like has that been a good like channel for you as well?
it's been amazing. So
Okay.
initially it was unbelievable because we launched them during COVID. So
Yes.
we had like 120 people show up to our workshops, and because they were virtual, right?
Okay.
Since COVID has settled down and people are back to work,
Yeah.
we don't get that kind of turnout. We typically get about 40 or 50 people that sign up for a workshop,
Love it.
and
So this is virtual. It's not in person. You're
it's
not
all
like John
virtual
Wayne.
still.
You're not
Yeah,
doing in-person workshops, right?
we're not doing, no, and it's too hard for us in person. We don't have dedicated space, so I would
Okay.
have to shut down the clinic,
Yeah.
and so it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And the virtual seems to be okay. We actually, you know what, we
Yeah.
did a hybrid last spring,
Yeah.
and it wasn't as though everybody was like flocking to be in person. So we
Yes.
thought we'd try it just to see if people
Yes.
did want to be in person, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Some people did, but it wasn't like huge. So we decided to just keep it virtual. And we're happy if like 40 or 50 people sign up and we get 20
Yeah.
or 25 people or even 15 people showing up like in the event, because a lot of people will sign up but not
Yeah.
attend. But
Yeah.
we're still collecting those people's emails. We're following
Yeah.
up with a phone call, and
Yeah.
it still, results in assessments. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What type of conversion rates would we get off the 40, you think, with your
So if we
process?
get 40 people that sign up, 20,
Yeah.
get a 50%
Yeah. Show, right?
show up, will show up.
Yeah.
We might get like 5 assessments from that.
Yeah.
But
Love it.
the thing is too that we notice is that like 6 months later, somebody will come in and say, "Oh yeah, I was at that workshop."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's what happens in the minute, but it'll pay down the road as well.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Um,
100%. That's actually how we've built our business too, right? It's all the content marketing, the workshops, the emails, and you just kind of nurture them, right? Amazing.
yeah,
And then what's the best performing workshop? For John, it's been shoulders, right?
yeah. So shoulder doesn't do it for us. It's so funny.
Is it pelvic floor or?
No, no. It's knee, and knee is probably number one, and back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been pelvic floor because you got a fair amount of pelvic floor therapists at your clinic, right?
We do, but it's a small part of our clinic still,
Okay.
and we're
Okay.
trying to grow it.
Okay.
So it's still
Okay.
sort of a smaller area within the clinic.
Okay. Super,
Yeah.
super cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Michelle. That was super amazing. And so how do people find out more about you, and if they want to work for you or maybe they want to be coached by you, like how do people find out more about you, Michelle?
Oh, so they can go to my website, physioplushealth.com. If they're a part of the Clinic Accelerator community, like I'm on Slack, so you can message me there. I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Demarchi, you can find me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that works.
And you're going to be coming to Florida as well.
I am, yeah.
Yes, we're going to have a blast. So if any one of you are still thinking of coming to Florida, like for our annual Clinic Boss Summit, I think we're going to have roughly about 200 people there this year. And so Michelle's going to be there. We're going to all hang out and it's going to have a really good time, right? So, and we'll see you everyone next week. All right. Awesome, Michelle. I really enjoyed chatting with you, like it's
Thank
it's
you.
super
That
cool
was
to kind of
fun.
go through your journey, right?
Oh gosh, it's so hard to remember some of that stuff. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
I always like this
What I
type of
thought.
reflection,
Yeah,
hey, now that you know what you know, what would you have done differently? Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I had to like dig it out from my deep down buried memories.
yeah, yeah. Geez. And how are you enjoying the did you start your first pod yet, Michelle? Or
So I just had my
okay.
first quarterly meeting 2 days ago.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun, but it's so funny
Yeah.
because she had it's 2 hours, right?
Okay.
But I didn't do a good job of kind of keeping it on track because there was a few things
Yeah.
I had to ask her before we kind of dove
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have another 15-minute meeting with her to finish.
Okay.
But I've already learned, right? I've got in those meet and greets, I've realized,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to ask certain questions in the
Yeah.
meet and greet that's going to help me for the quarterly so I can dive right in.
Amazing. Are you
But
enjoying it?
yeah, it
Okay.
was a lot of fun. Now it's
Okay.
so early, right? Like I've only done one.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was really kind of cool to be like sitting here
Yeah.
looking at someone else's stuff
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about someone else's stuff.
Yeah.
And because I'm worried, like I hope I'm gonna be good. I don't know. And you kind of think, oh God, what if I don't know the answer? But you
But you
kind
don't
of,
need to know the answer, right?
yeah, exactly. You just kind of have to know how to help guide them and where to find and whatever. So
Well,
it's
here's the thing is that I think, I think a lot of people go out there and take coaching programs and blah, blah, blah. But I actually think that when it comes to this type of work, your business experience is like what you need to be able to if this was your business partner, your clinic director, like this is like how you would like work with them anyways.
yeah.
So actually this whole process will just level you up to even be a even better, like entrepreneur, with your business.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I'm like so excited to do it. And first one was so much fun. So I can't wait for the next one.
Cool, cool. I'm excited to catch up with you. Maybe in Florida, you could let me know how the first couple months go with your first
Yeah.
pod.
Yeah. I will for sure.
Okay, well, thanks for your time. That was super awesome. And
Yeah, thank you.
we'll catch up in Florida and have a good
That's
time in
good.
New York.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your time in Italy and have fun in England.